Today we have another Monday Motivations for you, brought to you by Gates Brain Health. And joining us is Dr. Randall Gates himself. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We are very excited about this because you are the sponsor of this segment. And this segment is really dedicated to everything mental health. It's about feeling your best and making sure that every part of your body, from the brain all the way down to your toes, is working together to make you your best self. So tell us a little bit about what you do as a chiropractic neurologist.
Okay, so you can think of it as rehab for brain injuries or strokes or vertigo and dizziness, and it actually overlaps into other neurological conditions too. So people with like diabetic peripheral neuropathy or severe chronic pain. I work with all of those patients.
Okay, and so when working with that, I mean, how do you exercise your brain? That seems like a muscle that we don't usually think of when we think of therapy.
Very true. So in the 1980s, late 70s, it was discovered the concept of neuroplasticity. Have you heard of that?
Yes.
So it's where your brain can actually change, it can get stronger in certain areas, it can rewire, and that's the neurological premise that we use for rehabbing these different injuries. So it may be eye movement exercises, it may be different focus exercises, it may be electrical stimulation to a certain part of the body, trying to wake up the brain in the area that was damaged or is not working.
So what drew you to this practice?
You know, I was in chiropractic school and this gentleman came and spoke who invented this discipline of functional neurology, and I saw him rehabbing strokes and working with Tourette's patients and dizziness patients, and they were having marvelous success, and so I said, that is what I want to do.
Wow.
And you can check out our testimonials. We have very similar stories now.
That's awesome. And so for people who may not understand, what is functional medicine and how is it different than other types of medical practices?
And I would say more I'm on the functional neurology side. I use some functional medicine concepts. Simply, these are terms to say, how can we work with you naturally, without medications, dietarily, supplement-wise, to work with systems in your body to help you feel better. So for example, after brain injuries, they've shown that if you have a lot of gut inflammation, it actually makes the brain injury worse.
Interesting. So really you're looking at kind of an almost whole systems, whole body approach.
It's a holistic approach. So those looking for a functional doctor in Reno, this is what I've done for 12 years, almost 13 years.
Wow.
This has been my main focus.
And that is awesome. And we are so excited that you're going to be a regular contributor here on Morning Break. You're going to come on monthly and talk about what it is that you do, and also give people those like hands-on tools that we can use in our day-to-day practice to help us become our best selves. So I'd love to just ask you, what is one thing that you might tell people that if they want to start feeling better that they should do right now that really isn't going to come at any like big cost to them?
I would say they can watch our weekly stress talk. So I do a weekly talk on Facebook Wednesday nights about stress. You can go back and watch all of those. But in essence, I think taking an inventory of your stress right now is really important because of the pandemic. So many people are stressed for so many reasons. They've lost people, they've lost jobs, they've had different tragedies, if you will. So focusing on stress and then saying, okay, how can I best deal with that? Maybe it's exercise, maybe it's prayer, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's talking to a therapist, maybe it's talking to a psychiatrist, maybe it's talking to me. But you know, all of those things can be really helpful. Right,
because if we go to look at stress, stress is really the thing that can often impact every part of our body, right?
Exactly, and as a society, we don't really talk about it. You know, people say, how are you? And you say, I'm doing great, whether you're doing great or not.
Exactly. And so with that, when we start talking about stress, we start breaking the barriers, we start breaking the stigma, and we start understanding too that we are all stressed in one way or another. Like there's a whole community of stressed out people ready to wrap their arms around you and stuff. And so I love that. That's awesome. And so tell us a little bit about your stress talks. I'd love to elaborate on what those are exactly.
I started them this year in 2022 on Wednesday evenings on Facebook. So we just do a Facebook Live. It's sometime around 5 to 6 p.m. And we go over, we check in with each other. So I check in with myself, my staff, lots of times they're there, try and get feedback from people listening live on the broadcast. So, and say, okay, what are you guys dealing with? Here's what we're dealing with. Here's strategies I use in my personal life. What do they use in terms of the staff? So it's just really important because it's not talked about enough. And again, building that community of like-minded people so that they can just come together and maybe take a big, deep breath. 100%. Exactly.
All right. Well, Dr. Randall Gates, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks
we look forward to having you throughout the rest of the summer, all the way into the fall. Every single month, we're excited to have you. So thank you.
I'll be back.
All right. We'll be right back after this quick break.